Welcome to the Shorten Anime channel. Today we'll dive into the latest episode of The Great Ruler. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to support the channel. The Great Ruler Season 2, Episode 2, Boom! A dense spiritual energy erupted in midair outside of the valley. Two figures had charged at each other with rumbling spiritual energy like powerful winds colliding. In this moment, Ye Qingling was fighting with Yang Gong, and neither of them were holding back. They fully demonstrated the strength of the spirit stage. Although their strengths were similar, as time passed, Ye Qingling started to gain the upper hand. After all, she was someone that had come out of the spiritual road and had experienced the trial within it. Whether it was battle experience or mental strength, she was far more outstanding than Yang Gong. She had increased her strength slowly and steadily, while the latter had relied on a massive amount of resources in order to reach the spirit stage. Thus, Yang Gong's strength was a little bit more unstable when compared to Ye Qingling's. It was apparent that Yang Gong was aware of the pressure coming from Ye Qingling. His expression instantly became serious, and he did not dare to divert his attention elsewhere as he fought with all his strength. While this battle occurred, the troops brought by Yang Gong and Zhou Li had rushed over in order to fight against Wang Sheng and the others. But due to the difference in numbers, Ye Qingling's side was quickly put at a disadvantage. The situation was beginning to look grim for them. Ha ha ha, little beauty, your men won't be able to endure it any longer. Are you still planning to resist us stubbornly? Yang Gong laughed and tried to use words to distract Ye Qingling. However, as he laughed, Ye Qingling's attacks were becoming increasingly more powerful. The latter completely saw through the former's thoughts. How could she not understand them? If she were to be distracted by the others, it will not help the situation at all. Therefore, if she truly wished to help Wang Sheng and the others, she must defeat Yang Gong as soon as possible. Due to the suddenly increasing ferocity of the attacks, Yang Gong was completely shocked and did not dare to speak anymore. As he concentrated, he began to feel that this girl was truly cunning. While the battle between Yang Gong and Ye Qingling had entered the climax, a few people were watching the scene in secret from nearby. One could tell based on their appearances, it was the Ji clan. At this instant, their eyes were firmly fixed at the battle. Their eyes twinkled as they clearly stood to benefit greatly from the tussle. Big brother, it seems that Yang Gong isn't faring well against Ye Qingling, Ge Qing whispered as he watched the battle. There's no hurry. Ye Qingling does not have a sufficient amount of men, and they will soon be defeated. Furthermore, Zhou Li is already chasing after that little girl. As long as he captures her, Ye Qingling will be completely suppressed, Ge Hai sneered. But what I'm wondering is what is going on with that Mu Chen? He hasn't made any moves yet since the very start. Could it be that he has already obtained the yin-yang spirit Zoisha and is attempting to ingest it at this very location? If he successfully ingests it, if he were to advance into the spirit stage, Ge Qing said, trembling at the thought. How can it be so easy to ingest a yin-yang spirit Zoisha? It's evident by his absence that the bastard has gambled on ingesting it. However, he overestimates his own strength. Once Ye Qingling and the others are defeated, Yang Gong and his side will enter the valley. When that happens, that idiot, who will be sitting in a vulnerable state of cultivation, will simultaneously be at death's door. Ge Hai smiled evilly as he spoke. And if by some chance he were fight against Yang Gong to the bitter end, that will be the time when we emerge in front of them. Big brother sure is wise. Ge Qing had a happy expression. Ge Hai had truly thought through the entire process and knew what to do. Let's see how you, Mu Chen, overcomes this obstacle this time. Dong! In the sky, spiritual energy surged out of Ye Qingling's palms and emitted a dazzling light which collided with Yang Gong. A spiritual energy fluctuation, visible to the naked eye, spread out. While Yang Gong retreated back a dozen steps, Ye Qingling only retreated back 3 steps. However, he smiled and pointed below. At that location, Wang Sheng and the others were completely surrounded. It seems that your subordinates have fallen into my hands. Then I'll kill you first. Ye Qingling's eyes were cold. Spiritual energy fluctuations emerged from her palms. At this moment, she was preparing to attack once again. Ha 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 ha, I want to see you try. A cold sneer suddenly rang out from nearby. Ye Qingling was surprised and hurriedly turned her head around. At this moment, her expression changed drastically. She noticed Zhou Li approaching this location quickly, and in his hands, he was clutching a struggling little girl. Sunair! Ye Qingling was speechless. Sister, I'm sorry. Sunner's eyes had turned red due to shame. She severely lacked combat experience. Thus, despite being quite powerful, when she attacked stealthily, once a spirit stage powerhouse like Jolie had targeted her, her combat abilities would immediately plummet. Jolie, if my sister is injured even slightly, I will kill you even if I have to lose my life. Ye Qingling glared at Jolie. As these words were spoken, her voice was filled with rich killing intent. Jolie's face turned slightly. He knew how terrifying a crazy woman could be. Therefore, he did not wish to overly provoke Ye Qingling and replied, "As long as you hand over the yin-yang spirit Zoysia, I'll let her go." Ye Qingling clenched her hands and bit her lips. "How's that sound?" Jolie gripped Sunner's soft shoulders with a bit of power. In that instant, the little girl instantly let out a painful cry and her mouth twitched. Her eyes had also turned an even deeper shade of red as she fought to hold back her tears. Sunner gradually came to understand that this place wasn't the same place she was previously at. Here, she could not hope to have everybody's protection and love. Once Ye Qingling heard Sunner's painful cry, her body trembled slightly as she felt pain within her heart. "If I were you, I would quietly let her go." Just when Ye Qingling had felt that stinging pain of Sunner's cry within her heart, a voice filled with anger rang out, followed by a figure quickly rushing out of the valley. "Who?" Jolie stared at the figure of light, and his expression changed. Swish! The figure ignored Jolie's cries and appeared in front of him like a phantom. With its hands clenched into a fist, it sent a punch blasting out towards Jolie's head. From the atmosphere of this punch, it would probably blow away Jolie's head away if it were to hit him. "You have a death wish?" Seeing this, Jolie was completely furious. Spiritual energy gushed out of his body, and he fired out a punch of his own without any hesitation. His punch collided fiercely against the other punch that was blasted towards him. Boom! But as these fists collided with each other, Jolie's expression changed drastically, and a surge of pain burst through his arm. The other person's spiritual energy was exceptionally overbearing and had forcibly destroyed the spiritual energy that covered his fist as it charged into his body. Jolie's body trembled, and he hurriedly staggered backwards. At this moment, a sweet taste filled his throat. Just when Jolie staggered backwards, the light figure's arm shot out and snatched Sunner away from his grip. Then the figure's spiritual energy dispersed, and it revealed the cold-looking expression of Mu Chen. "Brother Mu Chen!" Seeing this familiar expression, Sunner instantly shouted with delight. Afterwards, her eyes turned red, and she said in frustration, "That bastard gripped me too hard. It hurts. Go over to your sister. Brother Mu Chen will teach him a lesson for you." Mu Chen smiled at Sunner. "Okay." Sunner nodded, and her body jumped into Ye Qingling's arms. Ye Qingling stared at her carefully while being quite distressed. "Boy, who are you?" Jolie's stared grimly at Mu Chen. Beside him, Yanggong's eyes were also completely alert. Mu Chen, who had suddenly appeared, made them feel a little bit of unease. "You wanted the yin-yang spirit Zoysia, right? Well, it's a shame that I have just ingested it." Mu Chen smiled at the two of them while he spoke. Hearing these words, Jolie and Yanggong's expressions instantly turned cold. They gnashed their teeth as if they wanted to rip Mu Chen into pieces. They had been eyeing that yin-yang spirit Zoysia for a long time, but because they had been afraid of each other, they had now failed to obtain it. They never expected that, in the end, their actions would benefit this Mu Chen in such a way. "You dare steal the item which I desire? Foolish trash!" Yanggong shouted out loudly and exchanged gazes with Jolie. He immediately yelled, "Let's get rid of him!" Just earlier, he had seen Mu Chen repelling Jolie. Thus, he knew that Mu Chen was quite capable and did not dare to fight against him by himself. Swish! But before the two of them could manage an attack, Mu Chen had already made the first move. With a cold expression, a dark black spiritual energy surged from his body and charged into the clouds. The density of the spiritual energy was many times more powerful than it had been before his advancement. So this is the power of a spirit stage. Mu Chen felt the torrent-like spiritual energy within his body and could not help but feel the comfort that emerged along with it. He straightened two of his fingers, and the tips of these fingers lit up instantly. With a poo sound, they quickly formed into a 3-meter-long golden light spear and stabbed towards Yanggong and Jolie at lightning speed. Boom! Once they noticed the spears, Yanggong and Jolie hurriedly circulated their spiritual energy. Both of them unleashed a powerful punch. However, their punches were blown away the moment they made contact with the golden light. A hint of surprise instantly filled their eyes. So the dark black spiritual energy was actually this domineering. Swish! Mu Chen's body quickly appeared in front of them again. He immediately let out a punch. But this time, 3 black light seals emerged on the surface of his fist. Surging black waves emitted out from his fist. As the 3 black light seals erupted out, Yang Gong and Zhou Li felt chills as they detected the overbearing fluctuations coming from the black light seals. They immediately gripped their hands together, and the black shield and stone stove reappeared. Bang! The 3 limitless death seals exploded out. The spiritual energies overlapped against each other and let out a powerful impact on the black shield and stone stove. It made the black shield and stone stove instantly turn dim as each flew back into their respective owners' hands. As they watched the spiritual artifact being forced back, Yang Gong and Zhou Li's expressions turned pale. Both of them were completely shocked as they spit out a mouthful of blood. They could not believe that Mu Chen, who was at the same level as them, would actually be so powerful. He was able to completely subdue the 2 of them by himself. Run! At this moment, the 2 of them understood that they have finally met their match. They acted decisively and immediately retreated as they wiped away the blood on their mouths. And just where are you planning on going? Within Mu Chen's eyes, a cold light flashed. He immediately activated the Shadow Spirit Step and turned into numerous afterimages. Before Yang Gong and Zhou Li could react, he had already appeared in front of them. A golden light glowing from his fingertips like a sharp-edged golden divine spear stopped in front of their throats. The swift and fierce aura instantly made fresh blood ooze out of their skin on their throat. If you dare move one more step, I'll kill you. Mu Chen glanced calmly at the 2 of them. The voice that lacked emotions had instantly frozen both Yang Gong and Zhou Li's body. Outside of the valley, Yang Gong and Zhou Li's men gradually stopped moving. Their expressions changed as they stared at Mu Chen, who had complete control over their bosses. Then they exchanged gazes with each other and stopped moving as well. He was capable of defeating the spirit stage initial phase powerhouses, Yang Gong and Zhou Li, easily. As for them, what were they worth compared to these powerful individuals? Motherfucker. Weren't you acting quite arrogant earlier? Who told this motherfucker to hit me? Wang Sheng, who had bruises on his face, sent a person who was at the spiritual rotation stage late phase, flying with a kick, while cursing. He hadn't often been greeted like this before. The person who suffered a kick from Wang Sheng did not dare to fight back. After all, the situation wasn't the same as before. What do you want? On the mountain slope, Yang Gong and Zhou Li gritted their teeth. A cold chill permeated from the fingers that had stopped near their throats. It made them unwilling to make even the slightest movement. The boy in front of them had extremely calm eyes. They had no doubt that they would have to pay a bloody price if they dared to take the slightest action. Mu Chen stared at the 2 of them and said faintly, "Since the fight is over, we will first talk about the price of fighting against us. Hand it over." Mu Chen's eyes were focused on the symbols located on Yang Gong and Zhou Li's foreheads. From the dazzling golden color, it was evident that both of these individuals had rank 5 symbols. You! Hearing that Mu Chen wanted to steal their symbols, Yang Gong and Zhou Li's expressions changed. They had spent a lot of effort in order to increase their symbols to rank 5. You can choose not to do so. However, I will wipe your symbol away. If that happens, I believe that the 2 of you will be eliminated from the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy, right? Mu Chen muttered as if he didn't care. Yang Gong and Zhou Li instantly turned pale. Their eyes trembled as they stared at Mu Chen, who said these words calmly. The latter's methods were more decisive and vicious than they thought. Have you made up your mind? Mu Chen smiled at the 2 of them. Fine, I'll treat it as if you're heartless. Yang Gong exchanged gazes with Zhou Li, and each noticed the bitterness within the other's eyes. They gnashed their teeth and concentrated. Then the glittering golden symbols let out 2 brilliant lights as the symbols turned dim. Mu Chen absorbed one of the golden lights into the symbol on his forehead. It instantly brightened up and turned into a dark golden color. At this moment, his symbol had leveled up into rank 6. After Mu Chen had finished absorbing the spiritual aura from Yang Gong's symbol, he flicked his finger and sent Zhou Li's portion over to Ye Qingling. When the latter noticed this, she hesitated for a moment, but after seeing Mu Chen direct a nod at her, she absorbed the spiritual aura from the symbol. At this moment, the symbol on her forehead also brightened up. Now, can you let us go? Yang Gong gritted his teeth as he asked. Mu Chen glanced at the 2 of them, and he let out a mocking smile. You were bullying such a cute girl earlier, thus you must compensate for it. We've already given the spiritual aura within our symbols to you. What else do you want? Yanggong shouted furiously. I noticed earlier that you two seem to have pulled out something interesting. Mu Chen's eyes slowly scanned the two figures. If he were to use the triple limitless death seals with his spirit stage initial phase strength, that wouldn't be something that an ordinary spirit stage initial phase powerhouse could withstand. However, the two of them managed to endure it. Hearing these words, Yanggong and Zhou Li's faces turned pale. This thief, he actually dares to snatch away our spiritual artifacts? Those are our protective items. We don't have anything like that. Yanggong and Zhou Li gritted their teeth as they replied. If that's the case, Mu Chen smiled slightly. His black eyes suddenly turned cold. His fingers disappeared from their throats and appeared in front of their foreheads. After receiving powerful winds from Mu Chen's finger, the dim symbols on their forehead actually showed signs of breaking. Feeling the chill on their foreheads, Yanggong and Zhou Li's legs turned slightly weak. If their symbol was erased, they wouldn't be qualified to enter the Northern Heavens Spiritual Academy. How about now? This is your final chance. Mu Chen directed a smile at the two of them. However, this smile made both Yanggong and Zhou Li shudder. This person truly doesn't follow the typical pattern. Yanggong and Zhou Li sighed powerlessly. They finally gave up on resisting and extended their palms over. A light emerged on their palms and quickly turned into two clumps of light. Within the clumps of light, one could vaguely detect a black shield and a gray stone stove. This is a spiritual artifact? Mu Chen frowned. He looked at Yanggong and Zhou Li in surprise. It seemed that they truly had powerful backgrounds, as both of them possessed spiritual artifacts. Even his father didn't have such items. Mu Chen was surprised deep inside. However, his hand did not hesitate as he grabbed onto the black shield and the stone stove. The two spiritual artifacts resisted for a while within his hand. But in the end, they were suppressed forcibly by Mu Chen and placed within his mustard seed bracelet. Thank you for your gifts. Mu Chen finally retracted his fingers and chuckled. Yanggong and Zhou Li's faces were completely blue. They stared ruthlessly at Mu Chen. Boy, since you dare to steal from the two of us, if you have guts, I dare you to leave your name behind. We won't easily accept this. Hearing this, Mu Chen smiled. Mu Chen, I'll welcome the two of you to cause trouble for me again. However, you should listen carefully. If you dare cause trouble for me and get defeated by me again, I might erase your symbols if you fail to hand over satisfactory compensation. As they looked at Mu Chen's smile, Yanggong and Zhou Li's hearts jumped. This bastard actually wants us to trouble him. Is he hoping for us to become individuals who would hand over many treasures to him? You just wait. However, they could lose the fight, but not the battle. Even though they were already in a mess, Yanggong and Zhou Li still had to act mighty and cool. They shouted out and immediately retreated. Once they noticed their bosses depart, the unfortunate fellows below quickly scurried away. They did not dare to stay at this location. Hidden in a distant forest, Geihai, Geiqing, and the others watched the scene unhappily. They were gritting their teeth to the point where they nearly shattered. Originally, they planned on reaping the benefits from other individuals, but it actually turned out like this. Big brother, what should we do? Geiqing smiled bitterly. He was completely shocked. Just earlier, Mu Chen had completely subdued two opponents alone. It was evident that his combat abilities had far surpassed any ordinary spirit stage initial phase powerhouse. If they wanted to defeat him, they would need at least a spirit stage middle phase powerhouse. Geihai gritted his teeth, and his expressions changed for a moment. Finally, a hint of depression emerged on his face. He said, "Forget it. Let's withdraw first. Right now, we aren't their opponents at all. Let's hurry and leave. It would be troubling if he discovers us." His heart trembled as he spoke these words. He hurriedly turned his head and noticed Mu Chen staring at him from the distant mountain slope. "Hurry and run!" Geihai was completely startled. He no longer cared about the others and ran away. He understood that, if he was to fall into Mu Chen's hands again, the latter would definitely erase his symbol if he didn't kill him. "That bastard, just you watch. We have already spread news about your existence in this Northern Heavens world. Since you had so many enemies in the spiritual road, there ought to be someone in this Northern Heavens world who will find you. When that happens, let's see how you'll suffer." Geihai cursed in his mind as he fled. Right now, he could only hope for a powerful individual to take care of Mu Chen. They truly refused to give up their evil intentions. From afar, Mu Chen stared calmly in the direction in which Ge-hai and the others were escaping. However, he did not chase them down. He already hadn't cared about a person like Ge-hai in the spiritual road. There was no need for him to care about such a person in the Great Thousand World either. If he truly refused to give up and he stumbled into his hands, all Mu Chen could do was to make him suffer. Mu Chen slowly retracted his gaze and turned around towards Ye Qingling and the others. He directed a smile at Sunner, who was in Ye Qingling's arms, and asked, "Little girl, are you okay?" Sunner shook her head and pouted. Then she lowered her head and said, "Brother Mu Chen, I'm sorry. I almost ruined everything." Previously, Mu Chen had told her that he would give her a major task. He made her hide nearby in order to protect them. But who would have expected that she was the one that was captured? Moreover, she was used to threaten her sister. This made the little girl quite unhappy. "You've already done quite well. If it wasn't for you buying time for me, I wouldn't have had the time to ingest the yin-yang spirit Zoisha." Mu Chen smiled and rubbed Sunner's head. Then his face turned solemn as he spoke. "However, you should still act a little bit braver next time. Your sister can't protect you forever. Moreover, you have great potential. Perhaps in the future, you will meet powerful individuals. When that happens, you might be the one that has to protect your sister. If you are still afraid then, your sister could be injured. You wouldn't like to see such a thing happen, right?" Sunner possessed an extremely terrifying talent in terms of spiritual arrays, and Mu Chen knew about this. Her training in spiritual arrays was more complete than his. After all, the majority of his knowledge about spiritual arrays was taught by Mr. Wenling. Perhaps Wenling was considered an excellent spiritual array master. Within the northern spiritual realm, it was evident that he was far inferior to a true spiritual array master. If Sunner was able to be courageous and wouldn't become a mess in a crisis, Mu Chen believed that perhaps he would not be Sunner's opponent based on spiritual arrays. Sunner stared at Mu Chen's handsome and gentle face as she nodded seriously. Brother Mu Chen was correct. She could not allow her sister to protect her forever. She had to become stronger in order to protect her sister in the future. As she watched this scene, a hint of warmth and comfort flashed through Ye Qingling's eyes. She directed a grateful smile towards Mu Chen as she understood the good intentions that the latter had towards Sunner. Mu Chen also let out a satisfied smile. Then he gripped his hand and light emerged from his palm. In an instant, the black shield and stone stove that he had stolen from Yanggong and Zhou Li appeared. A unique spiritual energy fluctuation was emitting from each of these items at the same time. Mu Chen stared curiously at the black shield and stone stove in his hands. He wanted to carefully examine his spoils of war. That wraps up the content for today's episode. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for the next episode. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.